Good morning. We are live with Jenna, Lynne Roberts. Welcome.
Hi, Anne.
I'm so happy to see you.
Good to see you too.
Now, I'll give a brief intro. If I listed all the things you do, it would take up, we wouldn't have time for the interview. But basically,
No, but basically, I'm an intuition coach and a tarot reader and teacher. That's what I mainly do. And I really love sharing. I've learned to deepen my intuition through the tarot. And, they say those who can do, those who can't teach. And I used to take that as an insult as a teacher. But now I realize they mean that those who can't teach it. So I've learned how to build my intuition and I like helping other people figure out how to build theirs.
building your intuition, listening to your inner voice.
Mhm.
Should we quickly mention Gary the Unigoat too while we're giving your intro?
I could go grab him. Yeah, Gary the Unigoat is a charming unicorn goat hybrid who is about 3,000 years old. He met me in 2014, and we've been hanging out together for a while now. I guess it's 7 years.
Gary's a puppet, if anybody's like, who's Gary?
You can follow him on Instagram.
That's right, he's on Instagram.
I'm at present path tarot, and Gary is at Gary the Unigoat. So come follow us. I'm also on YouTube. Both of us have a YouTube channel too.
And I'll put links when I finish recording this. I'll put links in the with the little box about how you can find Jenna.
And Gary.
Okay, intuition. Could we define intuition? What do you consider intuition?
It's funny, when I first started reading tarot cards professionally in New Orleans, people would say like, "Oh, you're a psychic," and I felt really uncomfortable with that word. And I was like, I don't know if I'm a psychic. I look at the cards and I know things, and I was very much more comfortable with the word intuition. So to me, intuition similar to psychic. I mean, they're very similar, but to me, intuition is the more subtle knowing that everyone experiences. And psychic, I do call myself a psychic now, but I still need the cards. I like the cards as a tool for that to really feel secure in what I'm saying. And to me, intuition is the gut knowing, the sixth sense, the way that we just know things. You suddenly get it. My dad would tell me as a kid, sometimes I just get a hit that I have to call someone, and I call them, and they needed me right then. And so he's like, I've pulled over and gotten on a payphone back in the day because I had such a strong sense of, I have to know what's wrong, I have to know what's up. So I think that's the familiar thing. And for me, psychic is when you develop your intuition, you kind of come into other lands of getting. The more you develop your intuition, the closer you get to more psychic clairvoyant gifts, but you don't have to go into becoming a psychic. I think that it's interrelated. It's a Venn diagram of two circles.
And you said something bad might have happened, but it could be also a good thing. I've called people and they go, I was just thinking about you. I'm so glad to hear
Yeah.
from you.
I think when you pull the car over, it's usually a bad thing. I think when you have that strong of a, like, I have to call them, it's usually like they're in desperate need, and they're sending out their telepathic waves to the world of like help. So I think that definitely, yesterday I called my best friend Sherry. I've known her since I was 8. It's so hard to get a hold of her because she has 3 kids and she's a Navy mom. So getting a hold of this woman is like getting through to the president. And yesterday I was like, got a hit. I'm gonna call Sherry. And I called her and she goes, perfect timing. And I was like, yes. So, that, yes, definitely, it can also be positive. It's a more subtle, I feel like it's even more subtle when it's positive, which is important too, because the more you listen to your intuition, the more you do get access to more positive information. I think that I think we all get access to the negative stuff of like, don't go down that alley. But if you really pay attention to your intuition, you get hits on like, go apply for that job, you know?
Yeah. So, how could you use this? Let's say you were considering getting a new job or leaving your job or retiring, or
Yeah.
what's a way you could use this in your work life?
Oh, well, most CEOs, I read a book, The Art of Intuition, and she talks about how they interviewed, I've heard this countless times too, they interviewed a ton of the top CEOs in the Fortune 500, and they talked about like, how do you make your decisions? And the vast majority of them were like, well, I get the information from my experts who I hire and pay to do the expert work. And then I make a decision from my gut, regardless of what they told me. And so I think that, especially humans, a lot of intuition is based in simple science of interaction. So you're talking to someone and you're seeing their micro movements of their face that you can't you would never be able to say when this tweaks, I know that means they need this, but your deep inner knowing does. So for me, I think that with work, it's like the more you're attuned to listening to your whole body, to listening to the subtle messages coming through, the more you're like, "This guy's a liar, I'm not gonna work with him," or like, "She is gonna be a badass to work with, I'm gonna hire her," you know? Like, it's that it's not all magic. That's the thing about intuition. It's not all magic. I think the psychic is where we traipse into magic realms, but the intuitive to me is just based in, like, simple psychology that we can't explain because it's so subtle. And you teach yoga, don't you? Do you teach
Yep.
yoga? I do too. And so, when I took yoga school in India in Madurai, they would say, "What we're doing here is we're trying to get you from the gross to the subtle, and to become aware of the subtle." And meditation and yoga are practices that increase and enhance that, so that you can then be aware of, like, now, like, if I tweak my ankle when I'm walking, because 'cause I'm over 40, so you'd only have to take the wrong step to tweak your ankle now. Um, I'll be like, "Wait, oh," and I'll, like, intuitively, like, shake my ankle, and I'll shake it out really quickly. But if I ignore it or just breeze on by it and don't pay attention to that tiny tweak, then it's gonna impact and get worse. So for me, it's a gift to have that skill of knowing my body through yoga to listen to the subtle messages it sends. Oh, my cell phone just rang. Let me, turn it off.
So you talked about these subtle messages, listening to your gut, feeling these body sensations. I know a lot of us spend a lot of time up here in our heads.
Mhm.
How would somebody get into their body, get that feel? How do you even access that
Right,
information?
well, and I mean, that's the beautiful thing about having these Eastern tools, I mean, I guess, Asian tools that we've since the '70s, we've brought yoga and meditation here. I think we've always had meditation here, but in prayer to me is a form of meditation. And gardening can be a form of meditation. It's simply presence. And one thing I love, I heard a beautiful quote the other day that said, the presence is the infinite. When you're in a state of presence with a moment, you're in a state of the all. And so simply bringing presence into your life is a lot. Meditation is great, but I also feel that for intuition in particular, it's better to have little check-ins throughout the day where you're just like, all right, how do I feel at this moment? How's my body feel at this moment? So, because what you're doing is you're setting a baseline of how you always feel. And intuition is a moment that's telling you very quietly something else, right? And so it's listening for that little change in your normal baseline. So if you're regularly checking in on your baseline throughout the day with a little moment of presence of just, I like to use that app, that mindfulness bell, and it dings, and I don't hear it sometimes because I'm so unpresent sometimes. But when it dings and you catch it, you go, "Oh, okay, all right, quick body scan. Oh, I could, I've been sitting for a while. I'm gonna do a little stretch. Oh, I'm really tense, actually. I'm really anxious about that thing that happened. All right, I'm gonna do a little shoulder roll. Give attention to relaxing your levels, which also helps with your cortisol. A lot of us in this day and age have like cortisol spikes going on. So when you're able to kind of like tone yourself down in these mindfulness moments, you're slowly building intuition. That's the first step.
So slowing down, being present, and you're saying don't wait till the end of the week and do an hour-long meditation, but
Yeah.
take these little bites, take a 30-second break,
Hmm.
breathe, settle in. I did a talk with another one of my buddies a few weeks ago about this time is a flat circle and how we view time. And our culture is always thinking of the future. There's other cultures that are literally right in the present. And then there are some, oh, you mentioned India, they have a long history, right? So they have a lot more past than we do here in the
Yeah.
US.
I would say China focuses immensely on the past. Well, I don't know. The thing about humans is all of us are anxious and talking about the future too. I lived in Taiwan for 2 years, and they revere the past more than we do, where they look back and they all have ancestors that they honor, with rituals around August. They all go and have picnics on the graves. It's a family fun event, and side note that I just love, is that they also believe that at that time of year, the dragonflies come out, and they believe that the dragonflies carry the spirits of the dead on their backs.
I love this.
Yeah. So, and I think that also listen. So one thing I learned the other day is they were trying to do a study on reincarnation because some kids have strong memories of past lives, and it usually sadly comes through nightmares. So they were trying to understand what this is, and they went to countries that already respect reincarnation because it was easier for them to talk about it. And I think that with this too, there's different cultures have different perspectives on mindfulness, but every culture has some perspective on mindfulness. Like it's just different ones and how they approach it. And I think every culture is a little focused on the future and hopefully gets into the present. Um, yeah.
So different cultures approach it different ways. Then there's lots of little we could go for hours on different little shoots off of this topic, but I want to make sure we talk about relationships. This is something I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
Being present, you talked about being present and being mindful. Is there a way we can use our intuition, whether it's like a
Yeah.
boyfriend or husband or work
So,
coworker?
oh my gosh, we could talk about this for an hour, but let's first talk about just dating because I think that's key. And so I think the issue with intuition is also building self-trust. That's why I love teaching it is because you're enhancing your own self-trust, which who doesn't want to do that, right? So when we're doing that, when we go on a date, we're so obsessed with how do I look? How do I come across? And we're self-focused in a way that's very already judging ourselves. So when we go on a date with an intuitive edge on us, when we're ready to do it from intuition, we go on the date curious, curious about who we're about to meet and thinking, I know I look good enough. I'm I'm me and I don't need to present the absolute best of me because I want to see if they like me even if I'm a little off. I want someone who really fits my paradigm, not just who gets approval of this stranger, but who fits with my feeling of being at home with someone, which means I may not be perfect. So coming in with that attitude and then saying, I'm trying to sense who I am with this person, right? How does my body feel before the date? What's my energy field like? And then while they're yapping at some point, scanning in and checking in like, okay, I feel excited. I'm definitely physically attracted to them. All right. That aside, because that can't be the only thing, oh, I feel a little anxious, like some sort of anxious. Is that my anxious or do they make me anxious? All right, well, we'll come back to that. I'm not sure yet, right? And going through and just noticing the myriad of different ways you feel with them and see if you feel joy and see if you feel grounded. Because when I met my partner, I was like, oh, not this guy. His resume, he doesn't I mean, his resume on a work level was fine, but I was like, no, he's not my type, right? But I felt at home and I felt I could be myself and I felt accepted and I felt curious and I liked talking and I felt at ease. So those feelings are what you're looking for. And so if you're approaching dating from an intuitive strategy, you're accepting how you are enough to be curious who they are and how you feel with them.
So being really comfortable with yourself, being curious about the other person,
Yeah.
and then checking in while you're on the date. How is my breathing? How do I feel physically? What's coming up for me? Which means you've already practiced doing that stuff
You have your
on your own.
baseline check-in. Gotta get
Yeah.
your control group in this science is you on a daily basis. What's your norm? So once you know your norm, then you can take yourself on a date and see what all the different things going on in your system are. and laugh with it, be like, "Oh, that's interesting." Or if you have, the other thing, fear and intuition. So, what's the difference? And so for me, even if it's a scary thing, intuition speaks typically from a pretty calm place. It might be firm, it might be like, "Get out of the room." But it's not like, "Get out!" You're not like, "Ha!" You don't like, you don't pull up into like, "Oh my god, panic." So fear is another voice in your head, but it's not how it tones itself to you, it's how you feel when you hear it. And intuition is like a firm, "You gotta go. This isn't safe." And there might be fear mixed in there, but that certainty of the voice and that quiet you feel. So I think that's another great thing about checking your baseline is noticing, "Oh, I'm in a state of fear. This is an opportunity for me. I know this is just fear. How do I feel that and acknowledge that's my wavelength of pure fear? There's no intuition in this. Now I can acknowledge the difference between my fear sensation and my intuition sensation."
I love this. And when you describe those two things, fear versus intuition, I picture fear like somebody shoving me real hard, and intuition is somebody like putting their arm around me and going, "Come on, sweetie, come with me over here. We're gonna."
Yes. I'm stealing that. That's great. I love that. Yeah, and the first time I was really curious about intuition was I was watching Oprah or some sort of talk show in the '80s, as a kid. And this woman said, she was in a room, in a conference room, and she kept hearing this voice say to her very firmly, "Get out of the room," which to me feels like, that, right? And she finally was like, "Okay, all right." And she got out of the room, and it was the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh my gosh.
And so she had survivor guilt of saying, "Why didn't I tell other people?" But it's one of those things that it's like you're amazed you're even listening to yourself when you're doing it. You can't judge yourself for, but if she had, not judging this at all, but when we do the intuition work, we end up serving others because we also get those hits for other people. And we can say, even if it doesn't, you're willing to take risks of saying, "I know this doesn't make sense, but I'm telling everybody, stand up, we gotta go." And whoever listens, listens. So I think that to me, intuition is not only a gift for yourself, but for everybody around you who you're like, my mom, my mom, we all, it's funny that we align with intuition with women, which I think is a shame because it's really a man's job. Men do it too. Like, but my mom when I was a kid would tell me things that she just knew. And I was like, how did you know that? And it's because mom is protecting you with her intuition.
I love talking to you, and the more words you say, the more things I'm thinking. This could be literally a 4-hour conversation, but I just popped into my head about, remember that tsunami that hit, I forget what country it was, but anyway, there was, I
Japan
just,
or Thailand?
yes. I watched an interview that there was a little girl, and she had just learned in her science class about the water rushing out in a certain manner, and that predicts a tsunami. And she said to her family, "We got to get out of here." And she was little, like 8 or 9, and the family's like, "Are you sure?" And they listened to her and boogied off the beach, and they got a lot of people out of this hotel. And I thought, oh my gosh, these parents that actually, because their kids like, there's going to be a tsunami. Could you imagine?
That they
I'd be like, I don't
respected
think so,
they
sweetie.
respect each one of the things I see as a major disease of the world right now, especially maybe just in my culture, I don't know, is dismissal. The okay boomer, no, come on, no. The millennials all eat avocado toast and they don't make money. No, stop dismissing each other. Stop saying that each other has no value. And to me, listening to your own intuition is the ultimate non-dismissal activity, and listening to other people's intuition is the ultimate non-dismissal. So to me, it's healing something that we need right now.
I'm from the South, and I can't tell you how many times my mother has said to me when I was little, be sweet, polite for women being polite,
Yeah.
right? You get a weird sense walking down the street. Well, I don't want to make a scene. I don't want to come across as whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the thing is being able to over super it's important that we're polite, and we need to supersede the politeness with our own intuition for sure. Big time, yeah. And and we were talking about we mentioned in the Instagram thing about shopping and eating and things. I think it'd be fun to talk about that stuff
Oh
too.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Can we cover eating? So I'm taking my ladies in May through a 21-day fruit and veg challenge. Just eat a bunch of fruit and veg. That's it. Right. You don't have to cut anything out. Can you give my lady some advice on intuitive eating?
Right, so you might be allergic to some fruit and veg, right? Like, I can't eat a kiwi. So, part of it is the simple concept that I've learned, I haven't done this enough really, but is that when you're shopping for food, you hold the item in your hand or you like, bring your hand over it and you just sense in your body a yes or a no. Some people do muscle testing with this where you hold your fingers together and you have to learn doing this by saying, okay, yes, and yes is so strong that you can't open it and no is easy to open. So, and then so you can stand in front of the avocados and be like, yes. Oh, that's a no. Okay, so can't have the avocado today, you know? So that's one way to do it is to do learn muscle testing for yourself. And that's just for your own internal sense of, is this something I should eat? Now, I don't recommend, I do not, don't do that with eating mushrooms in the forest. I, I know someone who did that with a mushroom in the forest and regretted it sorely. So, don't do this for life or death foods, but but for just general, is this something in vibration with what I should be consuming? And you know, that's
I've
it.
also heard this one where you hold it, like, in front of your belly. This one works really well for me, and then if my body sort of lean towards it, it can be a supplement or a vegetable or a jar of sauce, but if my I can feel my weight go back in my heels, I go, "Alright," and that may not be right for me right now. Maybe 6
Mm,
months, a year from now, I can work these foods back in, but maybe right now there's something going on with my gut where it's like, "Let's take a break from all this cabbage for a minute."
right?
I love
Yeah.
it. And then so knowing which foods to eat, and then what about how much food? Is there a way to have
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I lived in Taiwan and I've traveled in Japan and their portions are smaller. Although in Taiwan, when you have a family style meal, forget it. It's all they want. The grandma's gonna make you eat all you can. But um, so I think that for me, it's about starting with a small amount, less than what you think you need. And I'm working on portion control myself. And then eating, and then after you finish your plate, sitting and giving yourself a minute meditation of just like, how hungry am I? Like, and you got to get the neurosis out of the way of judging yourself if you need more food because, like, okay, no, I need another. I'd like, and, should I have the green beans or the steak? And really asking yourself, you're not what obviously your mouth wants the steak. It's
my mouth
getting down
wants
to the mouth,
cookies.
into the belly, or yeah, or you know what? I'm not really hungry for more food. I feel like I need a little sweet treat. What would be a sweet treat I'd like to have, An apple with peanut butter is gonna be too much. So I'll have, this bite of 70% dark chocolate, like giving yourself a sense of sitting before acting.
So taking a moment, sitting quietly, asking your body some questions, and giving it a second to answer you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
then
pausing
acting.
is huge. And so much of us, we are going, 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 right? So slowing down just a little, it doesn't take a ton of time. People get so deflated when they're like, "Oh, I have to do an hour of meditation." Do 10 minutes. You might end up doing 20 because the first 10 were so delicious. But when I dedicate to I have to do an hour, the have to comes in. But when I get to do 10 minutes, I get to do 10 minutes of meditation. So it's like with all these little things, it doesn't take a ton of time to increase your intuition. It just takes a little more self-awareness.
So instead of saying, "I have to," could you change it to, "I'm curious about"?
Ooh, yeah, I love that. And another thought is with shopping. So one thing I did a bunch of purging at the beginning of COVID, right? Because I had to be busy. And so I was purging closets. And then when I went shopping again, I like to go thrift store shopping and I love tchotchkes. I love little stupid stuff. But now I've been like holding the object and looking at it and going, what is my future with you? How many times am I going to have to dust you? Now, this is logic based too, right? How many times am I have to dust you, move you, deal with you? And now I'm like, okay, I don't really want that because it's how much of my life force am I gonna put into this $6 score? And so for me, it's slightly intuitive there of like, how much do I really need and want this? Instead of the impulse of just buying because it somehow itches scratches
Oh, yeah. That
whatever.
hits your nummies button, boy. Getting out your
You
credit card, going and buying new stuff.
But at the same time, I love my seaside ball, like, I mean
Right, and you can buy things that bring you joy or even things that are utilitarian, right? You need to have toilet paper in your house. You
Mhm.
need to have it doesn't have to be this sparse.
Yeah, it's a balance, right? And so it's just how much joy is this item gonna bring me and or how much life force is it gonna pull from me?
I love it. All right, like I said, we could have a 4-hour conversation with Jenna. She has so much to say.
I do love
Do
to
you
talk.
we gotta wrap it up at some point. Do you ladies have any questions for Jenna? And you can either unmute yourself and say words out loud, or you can type in the chat box. And then while they're typing or waiting to unmute themselves, Jenna, what do you have coming up that you can share with us?
So on May 1st, I am going to have a gallery reading. There's only 16 spots and some are already taken. My friend Kate Mora of At Group Tarot and I are going to be doing a gallery reading Beltane May 1st event. It's May, the lovely month of May. So I love Camelot. So Beltane is a pagan celebration, but Christians are welcome too because we're just going to be reading tarot cards. Everyone who comes, you pay $20 and you get your own short reading. And then you get to listen in on all the other readings and kind of come to you'll get messages from those as well that just resonate with you. Anything that you feel intuitively, again, is resonating with you. And you're like, oh man, I needed to hear that today. So you get your own reading, but you also get to hear what other people need to hear. And then from that, glean what resonates for you. So there's only 16 spots available and they're going quick. So come join us 11 a.m. Pacific time to 1 p.m. Pacific time. $20 for 2 hours of really juicy psychic fun.
And this is a live and in-person thing or on Zoom?
That's going to be live and in person on Zoom. Yeah. And I offer intuitive coaching and helping you get to access your intuition. I also offer tarot readings where you get my very well honed intuition and psychic skills. And I also love to teach the cards as an intuition practice, but really, I'm leading a class right now, but that's closed out, so can't join that. But get in touch if you want to join a future class.
And I guess I should have asked this in the beginning, but just in case anyone doesn't know what tarot cards are, can you give a
Oh,
brief description of
so
what a
tarot
card or
cards are a
she's
78
got
card.
some right there.
Um, of course, that's my desk. So this is a divination system where basically there's 78 cards that each have a different image on them and are telling a little bit of a story. Like this is the story of someone who's a little bit grumpy that they're doing all the work and other people aren't doing their part, but really everyone's doing their part. They're just doing different parts, right? So if you get a tarot deck, make sure it's got good stories on the minor arcana, and this is a card of strength. So this is essential archetypes in our lives presented on 78 cards that then have double meanings when you reverse them. So strength becomes weakness, or not accessing your strength. So and when I pull the cards, it's not like the movies where I'm going to tell you some horrible future you have no control over. It's much more of a conversation where I can help you understand where you're at now and how you can move on your best trajectory forward.
I love it. How can you move on your best trajectory forward?
Yeah, my little present path tarot is my little code side. What do you call it? Sideline is navigate to your best life. So
Best life.
it's just small. It's micro movements that get us there.
And you've got a bunch of cool videos on your YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
lots of information, readings, lessons in the cards, intuition lessons.
I love it. This has been so helpful to have this chat with you. Okay, last chance, ladies. Questions for Jenna. Now's your chance.
Or for Anne.
Oh yeah, what questions do you have for Anne?
Well, I'm curious what you're up to then. If you're what's going on for you?
This year has been so interesting for me. I feel like I just have this creativity explosion. I've been doing all these videos I started this Fit Club subscription service. So most of my ladies are on this plan where they come to classes or live one-on-one personal training, Pilates, yoga, bar classes. But the thing I'm most excited about is our 5-a-day challenge, also starting May 1. And so it's just eat 5 fruits and veggies a day, which we all know we should be doing, but
Oh,
how do we actually do it? So I'm gonna give little short emails and videos throughout the 3 weeks. And then for those of us that are in Portland, we're gonna have a live wrap party where we have a little potluck in the park. So
well,
it's
that's a great
21
message.
days eating fruits and veggies and then little tips and recipes. I've been contacting local businesses and they've offered some recipes and some discounts. The guy from the Toby's tofu spread is going to send me a little spice pack this week. So that's really cool. So I've got, so you don't have to do it all yourself. If you're like, I don't have time to chop and 2 hours worth of vegetables and stir fry, you could have a service come and provide this for you. So you could buy pre-cut veggies from Trader Joe's. You could do it all from scratch if you've got plenty of time and you know how to prep veggies and cook for yourself. But you could always, my hardest thing, asking for help. So you could always have help
Mhm.
from. Mhm.
Amanda Lynne is that what it's called, right?
Yeah, I've heard it mandolin or Ben Reener, where the
Yeah,
slicing veggies real thin.
you can pull through veggies, like, instantaneously.
You just got to make sure you have the safety on. I had a client was doing some potatoes, end up going to the ER. Make sure the little,
Oh, man, slow down when you get to the nub.
but yes, lots of, and use, I'm going to talk about that too, like making sure you have all your tools in the kitchen so that you can prep veggies. All right. It was so lovely to see your
Thank
face and
you.
hear all your good tips. Breathing, centering yourself, getting into your body, feeling your feelings.
Mhm.
I love it. I'm going to practice all this stuff this week.
That's great, yeah. Well, it was really fun, thanks for including me, Anne, I love seeing you and talking to you, it's always a pleasure.